And welcome back, and you're watching Morning Live on the morning of SONA 2022, the State of the Nation address that will be brought to you live here on SABC. But right now, just getting into some of the talking points, and one thing that everybody's been saying is that they've never seen the City Hall quite like they are seeing it now. It seems everybody is agreed upon that she seems to have had a facelift, but it really is absolutely splendid. A beautiful, beautiful site and a beautiful building here in the mother city. And this, of course, will be the venue for the State of the Nation address tonight and has been declared a parliamentary district for these purposes and others going forward. But we're getting to hear from our political parties represented in Parliament now. We heard from the Inkatha Freedom Party to the Democratic Alliance now. Siviwe, Gwarube, thanks so much for your time and stopping by. So, of course, new venue, we know what the story is, the backstory is to this, the fire at Parliament. But just firstly, your views on what's taking place.
Look, firstly, good morning and good morning to your viewers. I think, and as you said, this building has been such a permanent feature of Cape Town, and it's for the first time really that we sing it for all that it is. We are happy that the parliamentary precinct has been declared here. We think that is absolutely apt, and specifically looking at the historical significance of this building. It's also been important that we are not spending way too much money in terms of finding an alternative venue for Parliament, because of course we are yet to find out what the true cost of replacing or at least repairing the parliamentary precinct is going to be. And so it's good that we've tightened the belt and that we are able to continue with the business of Parliament in spite of the fire.
Well, there is a school of thought that contends that the tightening of the belt could have been much tighter, and that given that we had a virtual State of the Nation address last year, why couldn't we just continue in that way?
Look, firstly, of course, I think the costs which were released this week of the State of the Nation, I think that cost needs to be interrogated. And I think as members of Parliament who sit on the financial management of Parliament, we need to understand what is the actual breakdown of that almost 4 million rand cost. Because while we understand that turning a building like this into a precinct has additional cost to it, we still need to make sure that it is in fact the best use of public money. But when it comes to particularly looking at the cost of running SONA, we've always been of the view that this event shouldn't be such a costly event, and that if we can minimize costs, we need to be able to do so. However, it's also important, Sakina, on the other hand, to showcase to South Africans that we are truly back at work, and that members of Parliament, just like the rest of South Africans, need to get back to work and need to get back to the business of the people.
Ms. Gwarube, South Africans at this point, I would imagine, are tired of the talk shops. They're tired of the platitudes. What they want to see is action that results in better lives for South Africans. And, as a parliamentarian, as someone who sits in the legislative arm of our country's government, do you think that government is perhaps doing enough at this stage to make sure that we actually arrest, that triple threat that we've been talking about since the dawn of democracy, of unemployment, poverty and inequality? What sort of dents have we made, if any, since the dawn of democracy?
In fact, no, Sakina. I think you're absolutely right. I think the patience of South Africans is wearing very thin, and with reason, because of course, while you've got on the other hand an ailing economy that's not producing jobs, instead shedding jobs, you also have on the other side rampant corruption, which South Africans have been privy to. They've seen through the Zondo Commission what has come out there. They've seen through some of the inquiries we have seen. They've seen all of these things, while in fact their actual lived experiences on the ground is not improving. And so I think tonight the president has a big task ahead. We always say this every year, that this is a big SONA for him, but in fact it really, really is. Post a COVID-19 pandemic, South Africa could not have been in a worse position economically, and also just truly looking at the poverty of South Africans. And so he's got a massive duty tonight of being able to showcase exactly what has happened since the economic reform strategy that he announced announced. And 500 job opportunities, like the unions have said, is nothing when you've got almost 40% of South Africans unemployed, 7 out of 10 young people unemployed. And so big, bold decisions have to be made, but also not just lip service. He's got to showcase that he's willing to put some action behind his words. And he's also need to show us exactly how he's going to hold people within his own government accountable for the rampant corruption we have seen, whether it's COVID-19, whether it's through state capture. And so this is a big moment for the president, and I really hope that he rises to the occasion.
I'm curious to understand the role of Parliament and parliamentarians when it comes to actually assessing success or failure rates of any given policy, because we hear promises every single year as South Africans. The things you mention about the economy and growing and creating jobs, well, and it's, of course, we do understand that it's about creating conducive environments for jobs, but we hear these. We've been hearing these for the longest time. And yet, every year, there's a new State of the Nation address. If you go back and assess, what is Parliament's role in making sure that you actually hold people's feet to the fire in order to make sure that there's progress?
Look, I mean, Parliament, Sakina, should be doing a far more than it has been doing. Over the last decade, Parliament has lost its bite. It's lost its ability to hold government to account. And it's a sad state of affairs. If you read even the two state capture reports, you actually realize that in that commission, one of the biggest people who were liable, or institutions that were liable, is actually the Parliament of South Africa. Half of the things that took place under state capture should have never taken place in a parliament that is functional, in a parliament that truly holds the executive to account. And the problem is that we as parliamentarians, and I include myself in the part of the solution, is that we've got to look at some of the accountability mechanisms. Of course, you get the ANC who railroad certain things due to the majority that they have in Parliament, but we've got to do better by the people of South Africa. And the people represented and the people who sit in Parliament need to understand what their real job is. Their job is not to sing praises to government. It is telling the fact that Parliament has never once changed the budget and sent it back to the executive, because there's not a true understanding of what that institution is meant to do. And so the job ahead is hard, because South Africans at this point are tired. And so we need to really look at ourselves deeply as members of Parliament as to what are we doing to let South Africans down. Absolutely.
But just in wrapping, your 3 key issues that you'd like the President to touch on this evening.
Unemployment, a huge one. I mean, as I said, 7 out of 10 young people unemployed, almost half of South Africa's workforce and not in jobs. Number 2, we've got to also understand what is the strategy around recovery from a post-pandemic environment. But also, more importantly, Sakina, we've got to hear from the President how we're going to capacitate the NPA following some of the findings that we've seen, so we can truly deal with corruption. We need to see some politicians behind bars for a change, and we need to stop scapegoating junior staffers when in fact we know that it has been politicians in the driving force of corruption in our country.
Siviwe Gwarube from the Democratic Alliance, thanks for stopping by. And thanks so much to everyone who's tuned in this morning. And this is Morning Live, and coming to you live from the City Hall in Cape Town, which has been declared a parliamentary precinct to host the State of the Nation Address 2022, which will be delivered, of course, by President Cyril Ramaphosa tonight.